I'm a little bit freaked out, but mostly excited and feeling ready, feeling in control, feeling like I can do this. So I'm gonna do this. So a few weeks ago, I wrapped up a full draft of my dissertation, start to finish, intro to conclusion. It was 214 pages of full sentences. I still had some citations and formatting to work through, and I fully expected to have to do some revisions, but I knew that this was a good enough draft to send to my advisor and have her do a full read through and give me feedback based on that. And I knew that while my advisor was reading through my draft, I would have a little bit of downtime and I could work on some lower pressure things in a less intense way. So I took this little working vacation to go over to England, visit my cousin in Cambridge and go to the Cambridge Shakespeare Festival, spend a few days in London and catch a play at the Globe. And it ended up taking less time than I expected for my advisor to read through this draft. And so while I was still in London, she got back to me with her feedback and told me that my dissertation was basically defensible as is, which is really exciting to hear, and that was so much better than I had hoped for. There were only two things that she is kind of requiring me to change, and they're relatively minor, and then the rest were just some suggestions that she said I could take or leave. As I'm describing it now, I am getting more excited and more proud of myself for this. I have been kind of oscillating between excitement and pride and then panic at how close to the defense I am. I'm afraid of the defense. I know that I could do it, but I'm very afraid of it, and being closer to the end of writing means being closer to the point of defending. When I read that email with her feedback, my first reaction was stress and panic because she was suggesting that we move up my defense timeline based on how close to the finish line this dissertation is. And so I immediately started focusing on just like, oh my God, all the work that I have to wrap up now. I swear my body temperature is rising as I'm talking about this because every time I think about the defense, I get like panic sweats. Maybe I should be drinking water instead of coffee. I had also started to feel stressed and guilty for having taken a working vacation in the middle of these final stages of revision, but it was a very special thing for me to be able to get that news at night and then the next day go have a celebratory drink at the Swan looking at the Globe Theater. So anyway, now here I am back in my home office. Today is Tuesday and I will be sending the final draft to my entire committee by Friday at the latest. The dissertation writing will end on Friday. Oh my God. It is very possible that I'll still have to make some revisions to the dissertation after my defense in order to be able to deposit it with the signatures of all of my committee members. But that comes later, and so for now, this is my final week of dissertation writing. Oh my God. I have this checklist of everything that needs to be done before I can send this draft. Not a draft, just a dissertation. This is my checklist of everything that needs to be done before I send the full dissertation out to my entire committee. One section of this checklist is the necessary edits that I have to make, which is just 2 edits that my advisor has asked me to definitely complete before submitting, 2 plays that I'm working with where all of my references and citations for those plays need to be rechecked because I did bad scholarship and didn't cite scholarly editions of the plays, so there's a chance that a couple of my quotes are not perfect, so I need to spend a couple hours on each of those 2 plays. And then there are about a half a dozen texts from the 1600s that I have cited that don't use page numbers, they use page signatures. So I left all of those citations until now to do them in a clump because it's a little bit tricky, but if I do them all together, I get into a flow and it's easier to figure out. I have to write a roughly 1-page abstract for the dissertation, which I wrote an abstract for the dissertation project back when I wrote my prospectus, so I will have to make some edits to that, but I have an existing thing that can be reworked to fit this. I also have my formatting and final checklist where I just need to make sure that everything is formatted according to university guidelines. And then I have a gilding the lily section of my checklist, which is just a couple of the things that my advisor pointed out in her read through that I could fix but don't have to. So if I manage to get all the rest of this done ahead of time, I will go in, make those changes, just make it, put a little bow on it before I send it out. Throughout the dissertation writing process so far, I have tried very hard to work sustainably, take breaks, work reasonable hours, but I am no longer doing that because this is the final week. I don't have to sustain this workflow for any longer than 1 week, so I don't need to have healthy, sustainable working habits. I just need to get everything done. I'm going to work like crazy all day, and then I have an evening meeting with my advisor in which I'm going to ask her a bajillion questions about dissertation submission and defense, and then I'm gonna keep on working even more. And then on Friday, I will submit the dissertation and then go out to dinner and spend way too much money on a bottle of wine. I can do it. finish my dissertation. My advisor gave me some great advice yesterday and basically told me to stop dragging this out for longer than I need to, stop prolonging my stress and my work when I don't have cause to. I sent out a scheduling poll to my committee to find a date that works for everybody. The earliest possible date I could be defending is 3 weeks from today. So today is the day that I need to send out my complete dissertation so that my committee has time to read it before that earliest possible defense date. Yesterday I worked from 8:30 in the morning to around 11 o'clock at night with 1 or 2 hour-long breaks in there for sanity. I got a lot of work done in my draft. I got a lot of good advice and encouragement and information from my advisor during our meeting, and so today is the final push, and then I just submit it, and then the writing is over. This is the real final push. A few more hours of insanity, and then I send it out, and that is the version of my dissertation that everyone will read and examine me on. I'm a little bit freaked out, but mostly excited and feeling ready, feeling in control, feeling like I can do this. And so I'm gonna do this. Is all the necessary edits done. Now it's just optional improvements, formatting, and final checks. And lunch. I sent it. What? It's done. Oh my God. it. Everything is moving very quickly now, but that is a good thing. You know, I started the week thinking that I would distribute my dissertation by the end of the day on Friday, and then I ended up distributing it in the middle of the day on Wednesday, and then immediately scheduling a defense. And now my defense is on the books for 23 days from today. I have been feeling very nervous about the defense. My advisor assures me that I don't really have anything to worry about. I do feel pretty much like I know what to expect more or less going into it, because last December when I sat for my qualifying special fields exam that allowed me to move on to this dissertation stage of the PhD, that exam was very similar in structure to I think what the defense will be. It's the same committee of 4 professors who have been my advisors for a few years now. I can guess the kinds of questions that each one of them is going to ask me because I know their research specialties and I know their priorities and I know what they asked me during that qualifying exam. So I can go back through my notes from that exam, draw up some lists of the kinds of areas I think that each one of them will push me on and kind of prepare for each individual committee member. So I'm very happy for that. I'm very grateful that I have been working with these same 4 people for a few years now. But it is still very crazy. You know, a few weeks ago, I was thinking of a mid to late October defense date, and now I have 23 days. And I could stress myself out and think, oh my God, I only have 23 days to prepare for the defense. But I'm trying to focus on the positive angle of I only have 23 days left of work, hopefully. There might be revisions. My advisor thinks there will be no major revisions, but I am expecting that my committee will ask me to make some changes before I deposit the dissertation and then have my PhD. It's moving very quickly, but these next 23 days are going to be very productive. I'm going to be focused, I'm going to be preparing, and I'm going to do it. I can't believe that the writing is actually done. It feels really good.